morning, class. I hope you guys are having a beautiful morning, great morning start. My name is Ricardo Refutation, and I will be refuting Trevor's claim, respectfully, of course. This refutation was a challenge due to the lack of tremendous factual evidence, but his proposition was banning guns will harm the United States. His two claiming points that I caught were Americans have the right to bear arms, and his other claim was the usage of his own personal experience and ownership of guns. In opposition, I believe banning guns will help the United States by ensuring everyone's safety and giving us Americans more peace of mind. Trevor claims Americans have the right to bear arms, but did not fully support why this would help the United States. How can the right to bear arms help the United States when little ones are being slaughtered in their own schools? This is where guns become a tragedy. The Second Amendment does not justify school shootings. I believe banning guns in the United States will help, and here is a real-life event why. Just last year, a 14-year-old teenager from South Carolina opened fire at an elementary school playground, wounding 2 students and a teacher, just a minute after placing a teary phone call that led to the discovery of his father's body at a nearby home, CNN reports. Now, why would I bring this up? From extended research, the demographics and politics of gun-owning households by Rich Morin stated that about a third of all Americans with children under 18 at home have a gun in their household, including 34% of families with children younger than 12. That's nearly identical to the share of childless adults or those with older children who have a firearm at home. This very high percentage and easiness of a child or teen taking his mother or father's pistol is outrageous. One school shooting is extremely tragic, so I'm going to go ahead and emphasize some more on school shootings, but unfortunately, this isn't anything new for the United States. We all hear about school shootings. Another devastating occurrence that took place December 14, 2012, was a Sandy Hook Elementary School shooting in Newtown, Connecticut, when 20-year-old Adams Lanza fatally shot 20 children between ages 6 and 7, as well as 6 adult staff members. Prior to driving to school, Lanza shot and killed his mother at their Newtown home. As respondents arrived to the scene, Lanza committed suicide by shooting himself in the head. So, these are some horrific real-life events that occurred recently. Now, if all guns were banned, how can you argue that this would not save innocent lives, especially children's lives? Now, for his second claim, he respectfully uses his own personal experience, in which he owns 3 guns and uses them for practice shooting, or I believe recreational use from what I heard. Now, not once did he state that he was a legal gun owner, though, or if he was even licensed. So what does this prove? How does his personal experience support his proposition that banning guns would harm the United States? He states that he is a gun owner, and he doesn't just walk around shooting people, which we all hope to believe, but without knowledge that he's licensed or not. And how are we supposed to know that he might not just murder us all after class? Now let's go ahead and let's take this traumatizing thought away for a second, okay? Let's say, hypothetically, the professor next door raised his son Gerald to always stand up for himself when he had to. But the thing was, Gerald had a very deep secret that his father would have not accepted at all, unfortunately. Recently, Gerald had begun to get bullied at school after everybody found out his very deep secret. He was gay. Gerald began to get bullied every day now, but unwillingly did not want to tell his father because he did not want to upset him, thinking that he would lose his father's acceptance, which was not an option for Gerald. After being harshly picked on for over a year, Gerald had enough. He finally reached his breaking point and decided to steal his father's gun and shoot the class the next morning due to all his traumatization. You see, if guns were banned in the United States, Gerald would not have had the actual access to the firearm in the first place, or even the wild thought of doing so. Of course, every individual's ideology varies, but the allowance of firearms gives students and employees no peace of mind. You never know when the quiet kid will reach his breaking point and snap. The Brady campaign Prevent of Gun Violence reports more than 18,000 American children and teens are shot in murders, assaults, suicides, suicide attempts, accidents, or by police intervention every year. If we were to ban all guns, of course, excluding law officials, percentages of any shooting would be forced to go down. Bruce Gold reports that guns are unnecessary and 98% of civilian gun defenses, no shot is actually fired. So, if you are not going to fire the gun, whatever, you clearly don't need a gun in the first place. Banning guns will prevent these unnecessary defenses. So, in conclusion, banning guns will actually abet the United States. If you guys do not know what abet means, it means help. So, this is going to help the United States. We don't need another child being slaughtered at school. And we as Americans definitely deserve a peace of mind. If you truly care about your loved ones, why even chance the risk of another horrific tragedy? We shouldn't have to worry about any psycho shooter while attending school, or simply just taking our nephew to McDonald's for ice cream. Now with the time being over, what I'm trying to say is, nobody deserves to live their life in fear. Thank you.
All right, well, you start off pretty well identifying the advocate's claim, or at least trying to make sure that we think what you think the claim is, and then structuring the 2 points that you're going to be responding to. The first point concerns whether or not the right to bear arms increases our safety or decreases our safety, and your inference largely is that it decreases our safety, and you use several examples of school shootings as illustrations of those particular points. The examples are perfectly fine. Definitely there's not a dispute that there is that such things exist as school shootings. One of the things that I think you have the opportunity to make the argument a little bit stronger with is that one statistic that says a third of the homes with kids also have guns. So I was expecting then there to be some follow-up that showed that the number of school shootings or the number of shootings of kids correlates, for example, with the ownership of the guns, and I didn't get that, so I'm not sure that the inference that you're making there is as strong as it could be. You do need to present the sources for some of the examples. I think everybody knows basically what happened with Sandy Hook because we were alive when it happened. It was only a couple of years ago, but you should probably still be citing that information. And the same thing with your earlier example about the 14-year-old. Make sure to give us a source citation on that. On the second point, it's really about the personal experience that the advocate used. You kind of challenge, whether or not we should be making an inference from that person's experience. One of the things that you might want to do is contrast it and say, well, it's perfectly wonderful that Trevor says that he's okay doing these sorts of things. However, we know that there are 18,000 people out there who aren't okay because they shot somebody at some point or other. And so if you're going to make an inference here, the data is more on my side than it is on his side, at least as far as whatever information he presented. There's not really much analysis of what the evidence was that the advocate used or how the advocate reasoned in making their particular points. You've got some counterclaims that you're presenting. There is one big underlying assumption in your argument, and that is that a gun ban would work. And I think you take that as a given, and I'm not sure that that's really the right thing to say. In essence, you've got one point that says, well, how can you say it would be it wouldn't save lives? And I'm going, well, I can think of a lot of ways that it wouldn't save lives. How can you say it would save lives? Some data that suggests that gun bans work would be appropriate for you to have in this argument. You just kind of take it as if that's a given premise, and I'm not sure that that's the case. That's an issue of fact that probably is the basis of a conflict that ought to be argued about on this topic. And one more thing I'll mention about that last statistic that you presented. You did have a citation for that where 98% of the guns used in self-defense don't get used, they don't get shot. Or I'm going, well, that doesn't necessarily mean that the gun isn't useful. It sounds like it prevented violence without shooting it. Sometimes the presence of the gun is enough to intimidate somebody to refrain from engaging in violence. I'm sure that the vast majority of police officers, when they encounter things, they don't. It's the authority and the fact that they're backed up with the gun that gets the cooperation, not they're actually shooting people, although that happens too sometimes. So I'm not sure that you're making the same inference from this information that I would be making if I was, if I was going to be responding to this. This is one of those places where the resubstantiation argument's not going to get made, but I imagine that there would be plenty of things being said by the other side. All right, thank you.